can walk across this desert land. I can swim.
There's something that everybody has to realize. It's that some people are right and others are stupid. Heavy metal, rap music, and rock and roll were sent to us by the devil himself. And if you listen to these types of music, you're guilty of evil equal to murder. Unless someone believes, as I believe, they're less than human. For it is evil to be skeptical, evil to be negative, and the purest form of evil to question. You ever wonder why bad things happen to you? Well, you know what? Today's your lucky day. Because I'm here to tell you why. Why isn't anybody listening to me?
Well, I'm tired of being under the weather, with no one to nurse me in bed the whole day. This flower I fostered has withered, and now all I can do is throw it away. So return to the dust, I said. There's no need for you to remain. This Indian summer is taking its time.
If I asked you what your worldview is, would it make you uncomfortable?
Do you have any spiritual beliefs?
A little bit.
Yes, I mean,
In a way, I believe in like after life kind of thing there. I don't know, I don't have a per se religion to believe in.
For most of us it would, but why? After all, our worldview is what defines us. I set out to challenge my own views of the world, God, and spirituality, but nearly every video I watched, book, or article I read seemed to have this contemptuous view of all others. It seemed as though everyone was scared of another's opinion, and just refused to accept that someone else might be able to correct or add to the lens through which they see the world. Everyone was talking, preaching, and teaching, but no one was listening. So that's where I decided to start first.
So return to nowhere, I said. I don't want for you to remain.
Do you guys have any spiritual beliefs?
spiritual beliefs.
I go to church sometimes, and I believe in God. You know, Jesus is my homeboy.
Yes.
What are they?
I'm a Christian. To be honest.
No,
Not at all?
no.
Okay.
My parents were Catholic.
You just don't believe in anything?
I just don't think about it and I don't care.
Question, do you guys have any spiritual beliefs?
Rastafari.
Pardon me?
Rastafari.
Way of life. It's more a way of life, you know. I left believing behind and I started knowing. So belief is clouded in mysticism and superstition, so I leave that behind.
Okay. I have gone to church. I believe in, yes, but do I go often? No.
First, I mostly kind of stay as a fence sitter.
I don't know. I go to church on like Easter.
Christmas.
Christmas.
When I would go to church. Yeah.
I don't know if I believe in like souls, and I don't know if I believe in like an afterlife, and like it's something I think about a lot, and it's something that I'm like interested in learning about.
I generally identify as an atheist, but sometimes deist. Like I believe there's probably something going on, but I don't generally.
You just don't know what is going on.
Yeah, I don't want to put a name on it.
No. The question was, I want to know the Creator. I used to pray every morning, get up from 4 in the morning, pray for 2 hours, then start my day. And then in the summer, I end up meeting somebody, and I hitchhiked on a journey to like BC, met like the natives, got invited to like this ceremony, and like that was the first church I actually thought like I actually went to a church. I'm like, this is the experience. This is what I'm supposed to meet. So anyway, in this experience, I realized that God is love, and I'm like, God is love. If God is love, why the hell why would he say fear him? Like, I don't get, like, this doesn't make any sense.
For me, I had a lot of conflict with my dad. He's a very religious person. Went to church a lot, always wanted me to go to Sunday school. So I guess at that point, when I didn't really want to be Christian, I argued with him a lot. But I don't know, I don't often really get asked about my beliefs, so in recent memory, I haven't really had to argue about it.
Okay.
Because it's
Everything has a purpose.
everything has a purpose. Well, you can say I can only talk about my own life and my own lane in life, right? So in my lane, I realized that I am like who the hell is I? Who the hell is the I that says I love you and I want and I this? So I realized that I is connected to everything in this creation. So that I is older than you could think about. And that I is connected to God.
I was interested mostly in why people think what they think, what worldviews they have, and why they have them. By talking to people and by listening, you can come to appreciate a worldview. You can come to appreciate people for who they are. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them, and it doesn't mean you think they're right. But it does mean that you can live in the same space.
The second thing that's true of us agnostics is that we are comfortable not knowing. So certainly we're curious about things and we want to learn about science and how to operate the photocopier in the office and those kinds of things. But if something is not knowable, if there's no available empirical evidence or no way to get that empirical evidence, we don't fill in the blanks with speculation. We simply say, okay, we don't know, and carry on.
And then you get this statement that I hear a lot all the time: you chose to go to hell. It's your choice. You know, it's not. Door number 1, door number 2, you know, I pick heaven, you know. If there is a place called hell, I don't want to go there.
After a while, I began to ask the hard questions, like why, you know, if God commanded, do not kill, and then ordered genocide of innocent children, or the scriptures where it says the children are not to pay for the sins of the parents, but yet everyone paid for the sin of Adam and Eve.
Who's Eve?
Or, yeah, Eve for that matter, but you know what I mean? Like,
do the same thing Adam did there. The woman did it. I didn't do it, I swear I didn't.
You could question anything you want, but that doesn't, like, that I'm in my lane. I'm allowed to, like, believe what, as you say, believe what it, like, my spiritual part of myself is part of who I am, you know? So I'm allowed to, like, examine that side of myself without being questioned as a human being.
Actually, the thing is, there are two type of people. So one type of people, they always ask questions. So how it happens, why it has to be, something like that. Some others are very simple people. They don't ask questions. They just believe. And I'm from the second part of that. I don't really question my own faith. I faith in God. I feel good at it. I get peace of mind.
Sorry, Christianity and Islam, they teach us away from us knowing our real selves, and like we waste our time like doing all these rituals and never knowing ourselves, live our life and just die. So I'm like, burn that shit. Fire. Rastafari is the closest to what I really understand life to be, as a way of life, trod in your trod, you know, learning about yourself, being irate with your brethren, your sister, and the animals, everything is on highest region, you know. The historical origins of Christianity, you'll understand. If you really know the historical origin, not the traditional origin, not the stuff in the Bible. Like J was just invented in the 16th century.
The what? Sorry?
The J. The letter J was invented in the 16th century. So who are you worshiping when you say Jesus?
Yeah. There does have to be the truth of how everything formed into what it seems to be now.
Yeah.
So yes, there is one out there. We may not know it yet. Yeah, exactly.
That leads me to believe who is the real author of this knowledge. And the real author seems to be the Africans, the ancient Africans that lived along the Nile Valley. And right now, most of them don't even know who they are, to be honest. Like, I went to learn and I'm like, holy I used to have known this thing existed. It's like I said, it's tradition. So Bible tradition, because there's no dates, and that you can't find Moses' tomb, we can't find Abraham, nobody. 0, 0, 0. Well, I know I have friends. They go back and say, this is where we believe to have where Moses was.
That's
where
not what I'm saying.
believe where Abraham, with all of that. I'm telling you, they went, and if you go to Egypt, all the pharaohs, they found their bodies. Like, excuse my language, they found them. And Moses, we can't find him.
What about Jesus?
So Jesus is the story of the first Greek emperor. I would say that was in charge of Egypt after Alexander the Great left, right? So Jesus is the first guy. His name was, in the beginning, he was Soter, Meriamun, Remesu, something. He had a bunch of names.
I wouldn't say I would know the why or the purpose or that type of thing. That would make me where I'm at with the agnostic side.
Well, I don't know that I actually have an answer as to why, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay not knowing why we're here. I do believe in evolution, so I know that I know pretty much how we got here, following that line, but do I believe that there's a specific reason to being here? Not particularly, no.
That before I used to be a Christian, now I'm more of a humanist, agnostic. As far as purpose for this world, that's the agnostic part. Basically, I was raised Catholic, but in 1982 I became a born-again Christian. I went to a play called Revelation, and it had to do with the end of the world and the beast and the white throne judgment and everything, and it scared the crap out of me, to tell you the truth.
My experiences, I had a lot of experiences. Some were beautiful experiences, and some were of the very dark nature in the sense that something else was interfering, because I had a sister that was involved in Satanism at the time, and, I've been around different things, so, and I've had beautiful experiences, what you would call in the presence of God. But I can explain most of those as just a form of psychology, of love and learning to open up and to something that's bigger than you. But some of them couldn't be explained. Like some of the dark things that I had were experienced with another person. And it was not expected, and it was very, very real.
We're born into a world that existed before we came here, life as we know it, that we had nothing to do with and no control over. So we're given canvas that's partially painted, and we can just alter it from our point of view onward with how we deal with things. I have a lot of trouble with a lot of things that go on in life that I wouldn't want to see it the way it is necessarily, but I believe also that God doesn't want to see it the way it is. So
what we're interested in doing is understanding how science works and how it could work in some sort of ideal sense. But it's a pretty empirical field. We spend a lot of time studying scientific theories, and sociologists and historians who work with us. Well, I don't know that I understand the world, so I can't really offer you an explanation of something I don't understand. It's very complicated. That would be my honest answer.
Well, I would hold to a Christian worldview, and by that I mean that there is a personal creator that brought the universe into existence for a purpose, that creator made human beings in his image, that human beings are not only physical beings, but we also have a spiritual makeup. And when I look at the world around me, I see order. I'm thinking now of this as a biochemist as well as a Christian, but I see order in the world around me. I see elegant designs, particularly in biological systems. I see human beings as unique creatures. We stand apart from all other creatures that exist on the planet, that not only today, but throughout the history of life on Earth. And that uniqueness, I think, finds explanation in the idea that humans are made in God's image. Christianity also teaches that human beings exist in a fallen state, that we are separated from our Creator and we are alienated from each other because of sin. And so when I look at human beings, we have enormous potential and we've accomplished some incredibly wonderful things, but we also have this capacity to perpetrate unbelievable evil on the world around us. And I think all of this makes sense from a Christian worldview perspective.
I don't know if any of us can really know with absolute certainty very, very much. If you wanted to challenge what you believe and what you stand for, there is doubt within all of us. And none of us can know with absolute certainty every answer to every question.
We can think about truth as a black or white concept, such that that which is true, or a representation, or a body of sentences, or a photograph, corresponds almost exactly to the thing it represents. I guess that I'm not particularly optimistic about our ability to construct a theory or an understanding or a worldview that gets it exactly right. Truth is better thought of in degrees of approximation, and there could be multiple, more or less equally true, but conceptually different ways of thinking about the world that stand up to the evidence and the end of inquiry and the like. If you were to ask me to characterize what those views are going to like, that would be me just placing bets on my idiosyncratic knowledge of science going forward.
For me, my faith in Christ and what he's done on the cross is based on one single event, and it changed everything for me. And that's where I ended up when I was 18. When I looked at all the other world religions, I could find no leader like Christ, because he made a claim that nobody else made, and that's that he was the Son of God. I will lay down my life, I will take it back up again. If he did that, there's a drastic difference between that and every other religion that I could see. It's still, I can't find one that tells any kind of story anywhere near that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm making moves. I'm Chef Curry with the swish. I got too much sauce.
So long as you're passionate with what you believe in, there's no way and no one can stop you from doing that. The worst thing they can say is no, but hey, you planted the seed that this is what you believe in, and you put your foot on it. Just say, look, this is what I believe in, and I think there is morality and there's importance to this belief. It's ultimately, if you're passionate about something, you just follow it, and the best you can do is influence people, not dictate on what they should believe in.
Kyle's like, I don't want to get into this.
I don't, but...
well, what bothers you so much about it? Just, like,
It's a topic of... Yeah, I actually just don't like people getting upset. It's not like... It's not a disagreement, it just gives people... This doesn't say anything. It's only getting upset. That's showing that they're just like, they don't accept anybody's view. Their way is their kind of thing. Because everybody should have a choice between that one or that one, right? And people shouldn't be judged based on which side they choose. Yeah, that too. It's their choice. Yeah. And
I don't know. They've both done some bad. Well, they've both done some pretty horrible things. I don't think anybody's inherently good.
You can tell from like a mile away if somebody stands and looks at it for a minute, and then they look at you, and then they look back at the sign, they look away from it, and then they look back again, and you can usually tell by the second look if they're going to say something or have a prolonged hi or anything like that, or they're just going to choose to ignore. As I said before, I feel really awkward, and I don't want to bother people. Really, it feels weird bothering people.
Yeah.
Do you always do this?
No,
How long have you been out here?
a couple minutes.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
So we caught you at the good time.
yeah.
I was just like walking by like, hey, there's a sign. So this one's good, this one's bad. You just can tell which one is which. I believe there's good and evil. I believe that there's beauty and ugly. Because without one, you have to have the other. And you wouldn't know one if you didn't have the other seated next to you.
Have a good day.
Just me being here, does it bother anybody?
Like, no, I'm just curious as to why you're there. Social experiment? Yeah? Okay, I figured, but the first question I was like, oh, like, I know why they're here, and then that just confused me. What to do?
Alright, let's keep it going, Ben.
Oh yeah, that's a nice eraser B-roll right there.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure you guys realize I'm not some crazy fool.
No, I figured you were just doing a social experiment. As soon as I saw the sign, once I read the question, I was like, yeah, he's not just standing around with people today. And it is hard. It's very hard to find your purpose to the world. I don't really know what mine is. I look at life every day. Like, I wake up, I'm a 19-year-old working a job right now, but this isn't my career. This isn't my life forever. And the only thing that had any purpose to me left my life probably like 5 months ago. So, I'm a little lost right now. So like, I may not be the best person to ask about these kinds of things. So.
Here's a question. Have you ever been challenged to think through your faith?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is we shouldn't just take it from what one person says. You should really try to educate yourself on it, read the Bible yourself, and come to your own conclusions and your own understanding.
Should we be allowed to defend our beliefs? In other words, if someone questions us, should we be allowed to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to defend what you believe in, right?
Well, that's right. Yeah, you believe in it, you believe in it. If anyone else doesn't, well, hey, each their own.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Everyone have their own views and beliefs, so we should respect their ideas and beliefs and faiths.
In today's society, people like to just kind of attack your beliefs. And when you really have a relationship with God, it's not about who's right and who's wrong. We're all allowed to have our own beliefs. So it's not about attacking, but there are a lot of people who do. And so in those cases, it's not so much defending yourself, but standing up for what you believe in, but not shoving your beliefs on someone else.
Is it important to share our views and ideas with other people?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think as a sort of norm for discourse amongst people who value ideas, it is important to share them. And it's important to be open to listening and understanding them. It's important to learn how to express or I think even defend the ideas that you think most likely to be true.
I'm what they call a witch who is outed. I outed myself. So I'm very proud of who I am, so I have no problem telling people. However, it's not something that we go up to somebody and go, hi, my name is, and this is what I do. My line of work is a little bit different than other pagans because I'm in the public eye every day because I own a business. It's one of my duties to be able to spiritually counsel people. So that is one thing that I do every day is listen to different people and how they incorporate their spirituality into their daily lives.
For better or for worse, we have a duty to share our ideas and listen to other people's.
It's a loving thing, actually, to share our ideas with other people, particularly if we think what we are espousing is true and what they are holding to is false.
When I studied university, I took science. When I was in high school, I was always big into science. And what I've found so far is that curiosity brings you somewhere. And it's up to you to kind of, that journey to get to somewhere is actually the most challenging and exciting and life-changing. You meet a lot of people, you bump into a lot of challenges, mentally, physically, everything, spiritually, even to that point. Because it questions yourself, what do you really believe in? And how do you spread it to the world, I guess?
You can't walk a mile in someone's shoes who truly believes something, because you have to truly believe that as well to really be in that position. And so I wanted to see if listening and experiencing would change my view of something. We developed this experiment of going homeless for 24 hours.
Well, first of all, this is the start of our homeless experiment. Yeah. We're going to live as homeless people live for about 24 hours.
Basically, the rules were that we weren't allowed to use any phones. We can't get into a car. We have to make money on the streets. We had to sleep outdoors and on the streets. We were to try to play the part as much as we could. Whatever money we make, we're going to double it and give it back to somebody who needs it. We changed our names to Rick and Rick.
I'm just gonna shut it off. Did you shut yours off completely? Oh, no, that doesn't make sense for the phone call. Oh, I'm gonna get a crap ton of emails and stuff.
The closer that I get to this, to actually doing this, the worse I feel about doing it, which just makes me realize that I need to do it more. See, that's the problem right now, is that I live in this city, so there's a high chance of people recognizing me because I know a lot of people. But we're gonna see how this goes.
So we got our cardboard sign. We don't have anything to write. We got a cup. We got nothing to write on the sign now, so.
We'd have to do this for months to really experience.
Because we're going to miss out on any long-term effects, like long-term dehydration, food.
Yeah, I plan on panhandling, cardboard sign.
I play harmonica, but I don't own a harmonica.
When will I ever know? I've been walking on the line, thinking one day I'll fall into the tide.
I found that when you're sitting and panhandling, it seems like you have this interesting right to like stare people down as they walk by, which you really shouldn't do, because you wouldn't do that in a normal, if you like on a normal day where you weren't in such a situation. But it's so weird to have that feeling, because you get to watch them and they'll look at you and then they'll quickly look away and
But yeah, the community is a lot different than what I thought, because, you know, like as soon as we met one person, the next person stopped by, and then the next person stopped by, and then soon a whole group of people were there, and of course the atmosphere of drugs and alcohol and kind of questioning that sort of thing.
not always there, but sometimes there.
No, you can tell they were just being careful with it though.
Not too much, just a warm day. Diving into it.
Oh, not bad, nice day.
Well, how'd that feel?
No, I'm fine, but I dropped my pants. Turn down.
Because you landed it funny. A girl gave us money and she said that she knew what it was like to be there. I was like, whoa. And another really interesting thing to note is that when we're sitting there, you get this, you develop this interesting ability to hear and focus on the sound of people walking by with change. But it gives you this weird, as like from the way that we're taking this, starting off as this and doing this for a single day, you get this ability to judge those people. And you really, it's a bit of a dark element there to be able to judge them when you can hear the sound of change in their pockets and they don't even look at you and walk by.
Yeah.
That's weird.
One guy cleaned up his life, and or at least seemingly, and he's trying to make a difference, helping other people by just hanging out with them and trying to be a positive influence. And he's devoting his life to that. He's got a job working as a cook, and like he's really switched things around.
Yeah.
But that's going to be an uphill battle.
Especially with so many people around who are still ingrained into the drugs life and stuff like that. But
it's gonna be very easy for him to fall.
Yeah. So hopefully he does well. And we offered him help with anything in general. So.
Can I get you guys something to eat? You guys, what do you want from McDonald's? Anything?
Well, anything you'll get me.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right, cool.
Thanks so much. Well, I don't know your guys' situation or anything, but.
No way. Yeah. Sleep in peace. Yeah, appreciate it.
What's your name, man?
Greg.
Greg? What's yours?
Greg.
I want you guys to know that I didn't do that for me. I just tried to help you guys out because God's trying to do it. You guys believe in God?
Yeah.
I want you guys to come to church and meet some friends of mine. Like, if you guys aren't from here, you need to surround yourself with good people in order to get out of the situation. And also, after church is at 11, and then lunch will be provided for you guys.
Thanks so much. Like, it's unreal. Really appreciate it. Even drinks are in. It's so much more than we could have asked for.
Hey, this is God. What Jesus says in the Bible is, do unto others and you have them do unto you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That was in a situation before, right? Yeah. Shelter, I was in there like 2 years, right? So, it's not who you are, it's not your identity. That's what you're going through right now, but when you get out of it and when you become successful, you're going to have such an amazing story, I'm telling you.
Yeah. They'll tell you about like places you can stay, places where you can get meals, places where you can get things if you just really need something. A story that one of the guys said, a guy that he met on the street was bleeding and got blood on him, and he's a germaphobe and he had it on his shirt, so he ripped off the shirt and gave it to him to clean up the blood, but didn't have a shirt, so he couldn't take the bus anymore. So he went to one of the church spots here, actually the one just behind where the camera's located, and asked them for a shirt, and they gave him one so he could take a bus ride home. And that's where we first went to ask for a marker so we could write our sign out.
Yeah, we didn't think to bring a marker.
Yeah. It's interesting to be doing this while there's a syringe on the ground right next to us.
Yeah, I've noticed that earlier.
Oh, I dug it out. I didn't, not with my hands.
I was gonna say.
I want to make that note. I use my feet to grab and dig and, yeah. Not my hands. Who we've gotten money from, it seems that everyone has been young and like similar to our age, which is really kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
Nobody older than 30 has given us money. That girl could not have been 30 years old. The first one they gave us $3, right? Feeling kind of meh.
We were offered to go down to a rough part of town. Not really rough.
Only rough for us.
Rough for us.
Because of panhandling competition.
Yeah, apparently they physically remove you if like the other people trying to panhandle. So
not knowing that like panhandling is illegal enough.
Oh, right.
Is weird.
Well, we didn't know. Yeah, one guy told us, this is illegal, right? Like, what? That's why they were staring at us.
Oh.
Who? That's why the police officers, when they drove by, they'd stare us right down. And so we didn't have a sign up. We just had a blank piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
Carved into it that said change. It took us like 5 minutes to do it with a quarter. I'm just thinking, like, or should we write something provocative, like?
Yeah, so start writing change on it.
This is harder than I thought.
Oh yeah. It's not easy. Terrible G.
That's not a G.
No.
I skipped the G for now. It's a terrible G.
Give me.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's way better.
That looks way better.
That looks way better. No, that's smarter. We should have been doing that to begin with.
I'm not looking forward to sleep tonight.
No.
To be honest, the bugs.
There's already bugs out, and that sucks. So that's gonna be crap. I'm a bit hungry too, which is really annoying.
We've been off. We just gave the rest of our money. We bought water. We were given a meal, and we gave the rest of our money to a guy who definitely needed it more than us.
This guy. How much do you need? Do you want a burger?
Here, take one meal.
It's alright, it's all yours.
15, 16 years old. He said he was staying in the parking garages.
Yeah.
Not like I was 15 and 16. The pinnacle of my life was getting my license. Like that was like everything I thought about and everything.
Not where you're
and
living.
So yeah, I mean, at that age, I was just so immature and so.
Yeah, I was playing PlayStation for most of that year.
Yeah. That's what you did, man. You didn't have to think because our parents were there.
Yeah.
But this guy was kicked out so early.
We headed out.
Well, we're gonna check. Is this the place you're talking about?
Yep. I used to sleep on top of the stairwell. Right on the You could see the ground from that window. You could see it right here, the top of that. And it's sheltered in. Rain makes it cold, but everything else is pretty much good. There's an outlet there, power outlet that works. Free power. Yeah, we charged cell phones. That's what I did. I didn't have an active cell phone at the time, but I had an alarm clock that woke me up before security were going to kick me out.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Sounds good. Like I said, I'm waiting down here in case you guys want to...
Yeah, all right. We'll probably head that way.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't think bugs will come up here, Ben.
Yeah, bugs can't climb this high, idiot.
That's not what I'm saying.
I know.
So it's like about 4:30 in the morning. It's cold, really cold. I think the cold kind of woke us up. We've been kind of wrestling around all night trying to get warm. Walked down to the store a couple times and just hopped in there for a minute and got warm. Makes you kind of wonder what winter's like, but we found this little light that's keeping us warm, which is really, really nice.
Morning. We froze. Yeah, it was
And we
so
kept
cold.
going into gas stations and warming up.
It was
And we didn't
so
have any money to
cold.
buy anything, so we
No,
just
it
kind
was
of
just
wandered
felt like
around.
crap.
Went to the washroom, washed our hands, kind of left. It was really weird. Then Gizmo fell asleep in the Tim Hortons for about 2 hours.
Tim Hortons was warm. It wasn't 2 hours.
It was 45 minutes.
No, it was like a good 20 minutes.
Oh, by the way, after you guys left, we made $5 by 2 people, and then we were able to buy a meal. It was awesome. Like we went
bought
and got
spicy fries and chicken shawarma.
yeah. No, but
Yeah, good.
sorry. Okay, listen, we have to be semi-serious here.
Do we have to restart then?
Whoa. Here's the problem. We got almost no sleep last night, so
We're
kind
hungry.
of gone into hysteria.
We're hungry.
Last night when we tried to find a place to sleep, we thought the parking garage would work well, but then we were informed by a friend of ours, I guess we can call him that, told us that it's probably not the best idea because he was talking to a parking attendant earlier that said we probably shouldn't
Well,
sleep there because he
he'd
will
ticket
ticket
us,
us. Yeah. Even if we explain what we're doing,
Yeah,
he said
no
he'd ticket
questions,
us.
he would
So
ticket us.
yeah, something that he talked about last night, which was quite eye-opening to me. He said a guy on a good day could make anywhere from $100 to $400 a day panhandling, and I was like, wow. I mean, when you think about it, that's more than the average person makes, but it's not every day. But the point is, he said it's nothing for one guy to walk by and give you $50. We didn't experience that, but we only did it for a few hours. You know what I mean? Like, and we experienced an extreme amount of generosity in those few hours. So you can imagine if we did it all day and we knew where to be.
But yeah, it was pretty cold, and I'll be honest, I wanted to give up for a bit, but.
Well, yeah, that's what's
and
the thing you
also
look forward
eating
to the
something.
most?
I don't know. Actually, both food and sleep are even for me right now. How about you?
I'd say a cold shower or a
Ah.
hot shower, any shower. I'd actually the fountain out downtown was very tempting this morning. I was like, I just want to roll around in that.
I'd say the level of like discomfort with walking into, I don't know, a store or something like that when I'm in the mindset of this role seemed to be a thing. It was like the gas station that we went to at 3 in the morning. Yeah, it had to be buzzed in, and we didn't buy anything each time. We just kind of strolled around and just didn't do anything. We were just in there to warm up or use the bathroom. That felt really weird because just thinking about it, what it was like from the other side, from the other perspective of the whole thing, that would have been really intense just to see like a couple people walk in and not actually buy anything, looking like they're homeless.
Well,
there's the different things that I find is weird, where you can get into trouble just for like panhandling that's illegal, and cops can come by and stop you. And
Yeah, everything's gonna be walking on ice the whole time.
yeah, sleeping in certain parks, the cops can come and give you a ticket. There's things like that that are just really odd feelings to be worried about.
Is he taking a picture of you guys?
I guess so. That feels weird.
Yeah, just a bunch of people came up to us and asked if we were invading you guys' privacy. Like, and every time I'd say, no, it's cool. They're friends of ours. We can do this. And then they just give us like a weird look.
Yeah.
And I was always afraid like they go ask you or go a cop or something. So it was very strange. I felt like we were getting more attention from the cops than you guys were, which wasn't something I saw coming.
Good to see you again. How you doing?
Hey.
Oh yeah, we're recording that.
What?
Yeah, we're recording. We had this guy. We thought he was drunk. He was gonna break our camera.
Oh yeah, he came
what
up.
Are you doing?
He came up in like a fighting stance, like kind of like a boxer. He's kind of like skipping around. And we're like, we thought he came up and was like, "Oh, you guys taking pictures? You guys taking pictures?" And we thought he was gonna take like a swing at us.
Yeah.
And it's like, "What are you guys doing? Like, we're doing a documentary. What? You doing a documentary on nightlife here in the city?" He's like, "Ben said yes," and I'm like, "No, we're not. That's a terrible lie, Ben." And then he just like walked away. We didn't see him again for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is you probably hear it on the camera audio. Me and Ben were talking about, man, I bet Gizmo and Adam think we're super creepy right now.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far, but I don't want to be in the shadows over here like a creepazoid.
Yeah,
you guys have to sit there on your own.
Good life experience.
Yeah.
We just kind of
sit there and look through the camera and look creepy and
Yeah.
get talked to and like be looked down upon worse than we are looked down upon, which is funny, right?
Yeah.
People pity us, but everybody hates you guys.
Yeah, like
thanks everyone.
What are those weird people doing with the camera?
Well, he's on your head.
Thank you, Gizmo. How much did we end up making in the whole day? We think we figured $24. Yeah, so we're gonna take $50 and give it back at some point. It doesn't have to be today, but.
When I was 17 years old, my father came down to see me, and I was hungry. I was hanging around the homeless shelter in Fredericton, and my father gave me a sandwich and a pop, and he was like, "Son, I no longer want anything to do with you anymore." And at that moment, all I wanted to do was get high, just to forget about that, because your parents are supposed to love you, right? Hang out downtown, be cool, skateboard, hang out with the cool kids, smoke weed, do pills, do speed, you know what I mean? It was cool. I'd drink all night, and didn't have to work because I had money in the bank, and then start hanging out with the wrong crowd and stuff starts happening. You just gotta change the people you hang out with, change your atmosphere, change your surroundings. And I don't want to say go to a different city because you're just running away with your problems and your problems are always gonna be there. I'm gonna say like find a mentor, find like a Christian mentor, find someone who's like me, who's been through it, who can help you. But there's certain things that you have to evaluate that are they ready to change or are they just using you.
Have you talked to your parents recently?
I haven't talked to them in like 6 years.
There's no place I would ride.
Well, I'm a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So what we do is we stop people and talk to as many people as we can and share with them a message centered in Jesus Christ. Are either of you religious yourself?
Yeah.
Have you heard much of Joseph Smith?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Well, we don't expect anyone to just take his word for it. We don't expect anyone to just to know that he was a prophet or believe anything really anyone says, but we invite everyone to read and to pray about Joseph Smith and a book called the Book of Mormon, which he translated.
I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. Am I saved based on the Book of Mormon?
See, God knows your mind and your heart. We don't. But if you read the Book of Mormon sincerely with real intent, which means you change if you receive an answer from God that is true, that you would receive that answer, and we know you would because we have. So it's your choice to act on those promptings from the Spirit and from God yourself, whether it is true or it's not. It's not for us to, we testify these things to others to know, but we can't really tell you yourself. You have to figure out yourself.
I just think it's very, very important for any Christian watching this to ask themselves, why do you believe what you now do? Look in the mirror and ask yourselves, if you had been raised in another part of the world, say Calcutta, India, might you not have the religious views of that particular geographic region and be thinking that Christianity is somehow a misguided worldview? So it's very important to look in that mirror and check your biases and think about very, very carefully, why is it that you believe what you now do? And more importantly, is it possible to change those views? And what would it take to do so?
The challenge is how we make sure that we're open-minded, but at the same time we're not so open-minded that all you hear is the wind whistling through our ears. And I think the way we do that is to, hold on to our strongest convictions, know why we believe them, but also know what would it take for us to change. If somebody was able to demonstrate to me that Jesus did not rise from the dead, if we would discover the tomb of Jesus, somewhere on Judean hillside, I would probably have to, more than probably, I would have to give up being a Christian, because as the Bible itself says in 1 Corinthians 15, if Jesus was not raised from the dead, our faith is completely useless. And so I think whatever you believe, I think it's helpful to think through, what would I need to see?
So this is the start of our about to be 15-hour drive to Toronto for 3 interviews, really important interviews. And we have a lot of driving ahead of us. We've driven an hour and a half so far to get to the cameraman's place.
Yeah, that's not that far. We got several hours more to go.
We do have a storm potentially on the way. We'll see if it affects us or not.
Is it bad that I'm already tired?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty
really
bad.
But this is basically the last big trip we're doing to wrap up the filming. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. We don't die on the way, and we can turn this into something. Right? Ben, give the camera a wave.
But I just want to see your face tonight. I've been seeking fame and fortune, drinking from the tables of the kings. Thought I've reached the depths.
How you feeling, Ben?
Never received back tears.
The emergency alarm should only be used if medical, police, or fire services are needed.
Until I find my way back home to you. Well, if I can see your face, if I can hear you cry.
Yes, this is Kyle. He's one of our cameramen. And this is Ben, who's behind the camera.
Hi, Ben. Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Pretty good, thanks. Okay, how many guys do?
Where are you parked? We actually picked up
I'm a Muslim. The worldview is that of Islam. Islam is a religion based on the Quran, which we believe to be a revelation given to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, a human being who lived in Arabia some 1400 years ago.
Why do you believe it?
To begin with, I was born in a Muslim home, so that was the most natural thing for me. But when I became a teenager, I started reading more about Islam, and the more I read, the more I felt that everything made sense. It speaks about the previous religions, it speaks about the prophets of the past, including Abraham and Moses and Jesus. So it seems to have a comprehensive view of the world's religions, and at the same time, its doctrines are simple, clear, and logical.
Okay, so I guess my worldview would be I'm a Christian, follower of Jesus Christ, and a simple reason that I'm a Christian is I believe the evidence for the Christian faith is overwhelming. There's a whole number of pieces of evidence, starting with the historical. I think the evidence for who Jesus is, for his death and resurrection, is phenomenally strong, purely from a historical perspective. And then when you add in the philosophical, the scientific, the existential. So I think the evidence for the Christian worldview is incredible. And then particularly when you compare it to the other worldviews. My PhD was in Islamic studies, for example. I spent 20 years studying Islam, and I would say that the gap between, say, Christianity and Islam, the world's second biggest religion in terms of evidence, is incredible. A huge evidential gap, and likewise for atheism and so forth.
My worldview is known as secular humanism, and basically we have no particular belief in any deity or any type of God whatsoever. We feel that humans and other species are the most important thing to consider on this planet. As such, we don't believe ethics is something that's passed down from a divine being to humans. It's something humans come up with ourselves, so that we develop what concepts of good and bad and right and wrong are on our own, without the need for any apparent deity.
The whole question of experience is an interesting one, because you can take it one of two ways. You can either, I think, you could ignore it and play it down, or you can overplay it. So by overplaying it, you can rest everything on experience. The problem is, if everything's about experience, now we can't talk to one another, because my experience is not your experience. If your entire worldview is based on experience, then you can't engage in debate, and you can't actually go and commend your worldview to anybody else, really, because all you've got is your own private experience. On the other hand, we shouldn't ignore experience because it's a huge part of how we engage in the world.
Every book we read, every person we have met, every event in our lives changes the way we think.
So obviously you must think at some level we can learn from other worldviews.
Oh, definitely. There are things which are specific to to various religions. Or, for example, when I look at the Christian emphasis on love, I see that there can be a greater emphasis on love even within the Islamic faith. Certainly nothing that matches the Christian emphasis, because this is something that is very specific to Christianity. That is something that is taught in our religion as well, but it has not been emphasized as much, in my view, as it has been emphasized in Christianity. And seeing that emphasis on love in Christianity makes me realize that in my own religion there can be a greater emphasis on love than we have given in the past.
Yeah, the simple answer, I think we can learn from other worldviews. I mean, I'm hugely grateful to the Muslims that I was dialoguing with in London in the 1990s because they hugely strengthened my faith. Until I'd encountered Muslims, I hadn't really had protracted dialogues with people who thought differently to me as a Christian. Likewise, my atheist friends across the years. So yeah, I think we can learn a lot when people ask us good questions and challenge us. They can also challenge us in areas where perhaps we're not as strong as we should be. And so, for example, as a Christian, I think one of the things that I've learned a lot from my friends in the Muslim faith, and other Middle Easterners as well, actually, is I think the Bible talks a lot about community. We in the Western Church don't always do community very well. We think community consists of a quick cup of tea and a donut after church on Sunday, realising that's not what Jesus had in mind when he talked about community at all.
Do you find there's value in getting to know somebody?
I think there's huge value in that, and also as a Christian, I mean, I think it's interesting that a lot of the studies that have been done show that when people come to become Christians and come to faith in Christ, one of the main factors is a friendship with a Christian, and so I think we need to take very seriously the importance of friendship when we're discussing worldviews.
I'm often invited to world religions conferences. I have many friends who are different faiths of Christian and Jewish and Muslim and Sikh and Hindu, and we get together and we have discussions all the time, and they talk about specific values within their religious beliefs that are very similar to the secular values that I have.
One of the things that I've learned over time is that people do not change their views very easily. When I started out debating some, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, I thought that, if you're armed with some facts and you go and present the facts, then you would convert the other side. Because the one last thing is that people are not aware of this information. You have it now, share it with them. Everybody will be on the same page. My experience has taught me otherwise. People are not so easily convinced. There may be a trickle, maybe once or twice a person may embrace Islam as a result of these debates.
I think we should share and for Christians. I think that's for three reasons. One, it's what Jesus instructed us to do. One of the last things that Jesus said to his disciples was, go into all the nations and make disciples. Secondly, I think if the Christian faith is true, and it sort of colloquially it does what it says on the can, the Christian faith is not just an idea, it's not just a sort of philosophical concept. At the heart of the Christian faith is a diagnosis. Christianity says there is actually something wrong with us, there is something fundamentally broken at the heart of the human condition, what the Bible calls sin, that separates us from God and alienates us from one another. And so the Christian faith, actually, perhaps the best comparison would be like the cure for cancer. If you believe that you found the cure for cancer, if you were just to sort of sit on it and go, this is a lovely idea, you're being profoundly selfish. And then thirdly, I think given the world we live in, the pluralistic world where communities are jostling up against each other, particularly multicultural cities like Toronto where we are now, actually sharing our worldview and talking about what we believe, whether we're Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or whatever, actually is a way to good community cohesion. That surprises many people, because many people think the way to sort of build community cohesion is not talk about what separates us, but I think the reverse is true. If you don't talk about the differences, you ignore issues, you tend to put your fingers in your ears and not listen to the person next to you. But if I recognise that my Muslim neighbour, my Hindu neighbour, my Buddhist neighbour believe something different to me, now I need to go and talk to them and listen to them and share what I believe, but at the same time listen to what they believe and take them seriously. Now we've got a really good building block for community relations, because we take one another seriously, recognise we are not all the same, but also sit down and respectfully engage in dialogue. I think that's a brilliant way to build genuinely multicultural societies, rather than this sort of fake papering over the cracks of the differences that sometimes goes on in the West.
I think the most important thing we can do is, again, not go into a conversation expecting to change somebody's mind, but go into a conversation expecting to explore ideas, to have people explore your view, and you can explore others. How could I possibly, for instance, expect you to listen to what I'm saying if I'm not first willing to listen to you?
A critical illness when I was in around 19 or 20 years old, 19-ish. I was near death at that time, and I had a feeling about life, what it would be if I died. And then I went through a number of years after that of alcoholism.
I went through hell as a child, and my mother was violent bipolar, and so myself and my 4 siblings, we never knew whether we were to duck, hide, or run. And then there was further abuse as a child, and that really shaped a lot of my sense of humanity, as in what not to do, what not to be, and who not to be. And then I spent 26 years in a marriage that was pretty much a farce. You know, we loved each other in a certain way. I mean, I loved her as much as I could, but I was hiding in that marriage, and came out as being gay about 3 years ago.
Took our picture and basically said that we were wolves, not in sheep's clothing, but in wolves' clothing, going into the churches to try to bring people out. And he said, what other reason would they have to go into the churches other than for that reason? And my first reaction was, because I love the people. I love the people. And I think it's really hard when you don't believe the same, and the people that you love, they begin to treat you differently, or they look at you differently, or they look at you like there's something they gotta do to help you.
We decided to leave the church. I guess we were members there for a greater part of 23 years. There were some circumstances, I guess, throughout the entire time we were there that raised flags in my mind. But I guess the straw that broke the camel's back for me was the discovery of a 14-year-old girl that had been sexually handled by a married man in the church. I became angry. Just 2 weeks before my oldest daughter's wedding, a friend of mine in the church had asked, he said, look, he said, Greg, he said, what is wrong with you? He said, you look like you're ready to kill. Usually, if I'm upset, I'm pretty transparent anyway, so. And I just looked at him and I said, do you realize that we have a predator in this church? And just as I said that, because I was so focused on what it was that I was angry about, one of the youth pastors was just walking by, and he turned and he looked at me and he smiled, and I said to the man I was talking to, I said, so do you suppose he heard me? He goes, well, yeah, that's why he spun around and smiled at you. I said, oh. He said, he said, this afternoon when they call, he said, what would you like me to tell them that we were talking about? And I patted him on the back and I said, well, Steve, I said, you need to tell them the truth.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be able to share. And it's actually nice to have a Christian come in the way and approach that you've come. I find that's very commendable. And I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that comment.
Yeah.
Without an element of tolerance and the capacity to be able to see the world from a different person's perspective, we are trapped in a bubble. And when we are trapped in that bubble, everything is going to seem foreign to us. And that which is foreign to us then generates a level of fear, simply because we don't understand it. And that fear makes us want to retreat back to that bubble, back to the perimeters of the bubble where we feel safe, where we feel secure. And that's unfortunate, because it's healthy to experience worldviews other than your own, and to be accepting that others are going to come from different parts of the world, different ideologies, and have different biases than we do. And of course they're going to have different ways in which to see the world, as we see the world differently from them. And if we can have this kind of reciprocal interaction between ourselves with a level of tolerance, then I think we can go a long way towards understanding how we can get along and function and cooperate within an extremely diverse world.
Of course, we need to differentiate between tolerance and acceptance because there's two different levels. Tolerance, I would understand to refer to a sense that others have a different view, and we welcome that. We welcome the fact that the other person has a different view. Somebody said that, that's not a view that I hold, but I would defend somebody else's right to hold that view.
I actually loathe the word tolerance. I love saying that because people always get a reaction. You loathe the word tolerance? I loathe the word tolerance. Yeah, quite frankly, if I could remove one word from the dictionary in today's age, I'd remove the word tolerance. Here's the reason why. Tolerance is an extremely it's extremely patronising word is the first thing when we're talking about adults. I mean, I have a 3.5-year-old. Tolerance is what I do to my 3.5-year-old when she throws her dinner all over the floor. I tolerate a toddler. With an adult, if I disagree with them, I perhaps have to listen, I have to engage, I have to perhaps tell them why I think they're wrong. But tolerance, I mean, come on, I mean, that's just talking down to people. And if we're going to say basically, the moment I meet anybody who thinks a bit differently to me, I want to stick my fingers in my ears and shout la 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 la. Now we have a problem. No wonder we have communities fracturing, people suspicious of one another, because we're not actually sitting and listening. And I think this sort of idea of tolerance we've done sort of pushes into that. And then lastly, I think the problem with tolerance is quite literally an anti-virtue. You see, for all of the classical philosophers and thinkers, right from the ancient Greeks and before them, right down through most of the history of Western thought, really up until about 1960s, the idea was when you discover truth or you discover something that is good and noble and true, you want to share it because that's the nature of truth. Look what I've discovered, this is amazing. Not because I think I'm clever, it's fantastic. Look, I want to show you what I found. Tolerance says, no, you mustn't do that. Because even if what you found is true or noble or good, it might not be true or noble for good for me, and I'd rather not hear about it. And so in one fell swoop, you destroy virtue at that moment because your idea of virtue might be different to mine.
I've devoted the last 16, 17 years to trying to convince people that my particular perspective, my worldview, is correct. And the reason why is because I think it's important that people believe ideas that are true. People are more than welcome to believe whatever they want, but I think it's devastating if you believe something is false when in fact it's true, or you believe something is true when in fact it's false. Now, when it comes to religious and philosophical ideas and worldview ideas, these are big questions about what is the purpose or the meaning of life, why am I here, what happens to me after I die. And if you get those ideas wrong, the consequences could be devastating. If you think your life has no meaning and purpose when in fact it does, you're going to live your life in a very different way.
I think the internet has opened up levels of communication as much or probably greater than any other major breakthrough in communication in the history of humankind.
One of the problems is that we live in a culture where I think people have fallen foul of the error that assumes that the amateur plus Google is equal to the scholar. Secondly, I think at the same time as making a whole raft of ideas accessible that otherwise would never have made it through the sort of filtering process of scholarship and peer review and these kind of things. And then thirdly, I think the other thing that the internet and the digital age has done is we live in an age of distraction. Most people no longer have the time for deep thinking, the time for reflection. We live in an age where the soundbite and the tweet has replaced the carefully well thought through statement.
Yeah, I think the internet brings us closer to getting it right. If by getting it right means that we all get more of what we want, So do the Christians get more of what they want and the Muslims get more of what they want? Sure.
I mean, you would have had your religious texts and your religious scholars and scholars in various other fields as well, but people generally did not have access to the scholars. They just consulted the neighbors, and the neighbors could have given them misinformation. So such misinformation and on the other hand, good information has always been available to society, but both are now much more available than they were in the past, both the good and the bad.
We are going to have to teach ourselves and find ways to put limits around technology if we're going to think anything through, and that would apply whether we're trying to think through the truth of worldviews, whether we're trying to think through sort of politics and who we should vote for. We have to train ourselves. How do we put guards around things? How do we learn how to turn our devices off and actually perhaps engage with a book?
In having differing opinions and differing points of views, the main solution that I see is the capacity to be able to understand where those views came from. So I focus very much in my critical thinking courses and business and approach to life is to best understand our own biases and the biases of others and what led them to develop the worldviews they now have.
So we're gonna take $50 and give it back at some point. It doesn't have to be today, but.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good.
Can I get you anything?
Have
you eaten yet?
No, I haven't eaten today. I was on the road for 3 days.
Can I get you something?
I'm just trying to think. Donair would be alright.
Okay.
With just the meat and the sauce, no veggie. I get into the drugs. Well, I get into the smoking weed, smoking hash, but they're really doing that for me. And then I moved into the heroin, and I started doing the toe. But I've been homeless for about 6 months now, and I won't stay. I stayed at the shelter. I'm allergic to bugs. Bed bugs. If I sleep here, sleep there, wherever, I don't know, rest at night time. Yeah. But I survive.
How you doing?
Oh, not that good.
No? What's going on?
Oh, I'm just trying to get back to Moncton.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Can I get you one?
Could you? Yeah.
What do you want?
Could you score a coffee?
Sure. What do you take? Do you want anything else?
Well, yeah. Could you grab me a sandwich?
Sure.
Sure, muffin.
Do you want a muffin?
They won't let me in. I'm not allowed in.
Okay.
I was gonna walk up and down the strip just to see who was all there. And I seen her and she took out her headphones and she was like, hi. And I felt like I needed to go talk to her and I was like, so hi, how are you doing today? And she started opening up. She's like, I'm not doing too well. Well, yesterday I just had enough money to buy 2 loaves of bread. That's the first time I ate in 3 or 4 days. And I was like, what? I was like, you don't hear that around here that often. And it just, my heart started to hurt. And I was just like, what's your story? And she's like, well, 3 years ago I decided I didn't want to live at home no more. And I started hitchhiking across Canada. And I found myself here. And no job, no really good place to stay, no support. And I was just like, what can we do to help you? And she's like, all I want is something to eat. I'm hungry. I'm tired of eating bread.
Well, basically what we did, we just went in and bought her some lunch, and I gave her the rest of the money I had because Jerry didn't seem to think, and I didn't seem to think she was going to use it for drugs or anything. And I made her promise for food. I mean, it's the best we can do.
Because I was confused because
I know.
I thought that was what we were doing here, and then I just assumed it must have been like a pretty sensitive situation. So
yes, I think she's going through a rough time. She's very sincere with what she's doing. She just needed a bite to eat. That was our $50. We're done now.
Okay.
But obviously, that's not where it stops. I think she's quite moved because I don't think she's probably had anyone that shows her that they care. She said she's been approached many times for doing favors for money, and she just doesn't want to do that.
The thing is, like, I'm not gonna give it, and this is just the beginning. Like, I'm gonna take her to church, and I'm gonna come alongside her and be her friend, and be someone that she could talk to or call. Or
she seems like a very nice person. She really does. Thanks for the patience, guys. We just kind of left them. Because I went out and told them, I said, you guys just stay here.
Just stay here. I gotta do a thing. And you never came back.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Jesus, I'm on a journey to be more like you. You gotta show me just what to do, and I'm not afraid, 'cause I've been singing like you're ready. what's right.